Everyone froze when Leonor walked in glitter glamour and royal jewels at Luxembourg's throne dinner. A royal dinner. Regal gowns. Glittering jewels. But then, silence. Everyone froze. Not for the Grand Duke. Not for the Queen. For Leonor. Because this wasn't supposed to be her night. But she walked in, and changed everything. It was meant to be a diplomatic celebration. Luxembourg's throne dinner, one of the most anticipated royal events of the year. An evening to honor tradition, lineage, and unity among Europe's oldest monarchies. The grand hall of the Grand Ducal Palace had never looked more magnificent. Gilded chandeliers, hand-painted ceilings, music from a live chamber orchestra echoing against centuries-old stone. Royals from across Europe arrived in procession. Belgian tiaras, Dutch brooches, Swedish elegance. Then, came Spain. And with Spain, Leonor. No one expected her to draw so much attention. She was not the sovereign. Not the hostess. Yet when she entered, the air changed. Not with noise, but stillness. A collective breath, caught. A hush that rippled through the velvet-draped hall. What was it? The gown. It shimmered like liquid silver. A custom design, modern, yet unmistakably royal. It was Dior, confirmed later by palace sources. But that wasn't it. Not fully. Was it the jewels? She wore the Spanish floral tiara, a piece not seen since Queen Letizia wore it a decade ago. Whispers swept the room. Why that tiara? Why now? Traditionally, that tiara was worn only by reigning queens or consorts. Leonor had just turned 20. This was no accident. It was a message. Behind the smile, behind the shimmer, was strategy. She walked beside Queen Letizia, matching her mother's poise step for step. But for the first time, eyes shifted. From Letizia, to her daughter. It wasn't just elegance. It was presence. A quiet power that didn't need to speak. So what led to this moment? Just a year ago, Leonor was finishing her military training. Living among cadets, rising at dawn, drilling under rain and discipline. She was learning more than tactics. She was learning duty, strength, endurance. But there were doubts. Critics said she was too young. Too sheltered, too quiet for the modern throne. She heard them, and she waited. This dinner was her answer. Back in the palace corridors, preparations had begun weeks in advance. The guest list, curated with precision, the tableware, historic porcelain from the 18th century. But the focus became Leonor, without intention. Or was it unintentional at all? Sources close to the Spanish household say Queen Letizia had long prepared for this moment. Not with speeches, but with silence. She let Leonor find her own path, her own voice. And now, it echoed. Inside the hall, Queen Matilda of Belgium complimented her gown. Queen Maxima of the Netherlands leaned in to whisper something, perhaps an acknowledgement, perhaps a warning. Because royalty knows, one entrance can change everything. And it had. The Luxembourg royals, ever composed, greeted her with grace. But observers noted a shift in seating. Leonor was placed not at the periphery, but close to center. To the Grand Duke himself. This positioning, intentional, symbolic, and the conversation that followed. She spoke confidently in French, then German. Then addressed a Luxembourg dignitary in his native Luxembourgish. Few knew she'd studied it. Fewer expected her to use it flawlessly. The room, again, stilled. This wasn't the princess they remembered from grainy photos and palace press releases. This was a leader. What does this mean for the future of Spain? For Europe? Already, conversations are shifting. About succession. About influence. About soft power, and the rise of young royalty with global relevance. Leonor represents something rare. She's royal by blood, but relatable by spirit. She grew up in the social media age, but never overexposed. She studied at UWC Atlantic College in Wales, surrounded by thinkers, activists, dreamers. Her friends weren't aristocrats. They were future leaders. And she listened. Now, she's back. Not as a child. Not as an heir waiting her turn. But as a woman shaping her role on her own terms. And yet, beneath the sparkle, was still humanity. Photographers captured a moment when she adjusted her glove, slightly nervous. Another, where she laughed, unpolished, real. Then a pause, just before the toast, when she looked toward her father, King Felipe. He nodded. A small gesture. But it said everything: pride, trust, a quiet passing of something deeper than titles. Legacy. And his glasses clinked, and the orchestra played again. Leonor stood not at the edge, but in the center. Not because protocol demanded it, but because the moment had claimed her. This dinner may have celebrated tradition, but Leonor turned it into a turning point. The next day, newspapers across Europe headlined her name. The future of monarchy has arrived. Spain's jewel steps into the light. And yet, she said nothing publicly. No statement, no interview, only a single photo posted quietly by the royal house. Captioned simply, "Throne Dinner, Luxembourg. Let the world do the talking." So, what happens next? More events will come, more gowns, more cameras, but something shifted that night. Because when Leonor walked in, she didn't just wear the crown jewels. She became one, not by inheritance, but by presence. And that, you can't teach, you can't rehearse, you become it. Everyone froze, and the future took its first step.